and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where we sat down and we talked about the top 10 takeaways from 300 episodes of this podcast. Today, for episode number 301, we are going to do 5 ways to improve your intimate relationship.
Folks, I just signed on a new client. Shout out to you. You know who you are. So coaching, I'm seeing so many of my clients succeed in what they believe is success for them. I believe in coaching so strongly. Imagine this podcast, but completely customized for you specifically, your goals and dreams. Peak performance fitness, peak performance business, lifestyle design. I want to help you achieve your goals.
And the very first Hyperconscious Live will be coming to Worcester, Massachusetts, April 25th. This is going to be an intimate event where you're going to get a chance to talk and meet every single one of the speakers. So Alan and I are speaking. Dr. Robert Scott is speaking. He was on this podcast a while ago. He'll be talking about clarity and vision. And then the one and only Mark Metry will be headlining this event, and he will be talking about social anxiety and overcoming it because he has a book coming out March 14th.
Again, that'll be in Worcester, dinner included.
Yes, dinner is included. All right, let's do this.
Let's do this
Let's
thing.
do this. We got 26 minutes on the clock. And if you guys are anything like me, and I feel like you probably are, right? You're probably like me and Alan in our certain different ways. You want tactics. You want to know, when I leave this podcast, what will I have?
Right.
What will I learn? You will learn 5 ways to improve your intimate relationship. And that's the stuff that we're doing. It's the stuff that we've screwed up. It's the stuff that we're working on. It's the stuff that we've just started doing, whatever it is. But these are the top 5 things that we have done to have great relationships. I think that people see the pictures, right? Like, I put a picture of me and Taryn up, and it does better than anything else I've ever posted. But I don't ever want what you see on social media to be the highlight.
Right.
Because it's not. That's what I want my relationship to be all the time, and it is. My relationship this is the best relationship I've ever had. But I think it's because I'm working, in this relationship, and I said, yes, working, because it is.
Right.
We're working on getting better and making sure we're connected, but we're always focused on learning and growing with each other. So we're going to chat about that today.
Whenever you see success on the surface, it's because of what people are doing behind the scenes. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so number 1, we whiteboarded a bit, masterminded.
Yeah, sure.
Number 1 is vulnerability.
Yeah.
Kevin said that was the most important piece of how to improve your relationship. Do you want to go into an example of vulnerability?
Yes. So this is what I would say for you if you're listening. I don't know if it's as hard to be vulnerable when you're a woman as it is when you're a man, because it can be difficult if you're a man. If you're a man and you're listening to this podcast, you might think to yourself, my girlfriend has to think I have all the answers. My girlfriend has to think that I can carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. My girlfriend can't see me cry. She can't see me weak. She can't see me fail. It's actually false.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a good girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever the system is or whatever the scenario is for you, if your partner is good, they love you and they're supportive, them seeing you fail, them seeing you burn down, it's not going to be like, oh my God, I have to get out of this relationship. This person's not going to be successful. What it is this person is letting me into their deepest thoughts and their pains. So for me, and this is another thing that we're going to talk about the check-ins, but Taryn and I did a check-in, and this was the one after the event. It was literally Sunday morning, our event. I didn't get home until like 11 p.m. on Saturday. So we get up Sunday, we hang out, I think we did breakfast, we did lunch, and then we were watching some movies. And I said, all right, let's do our check-in. Let's do our first check-in. We do this check-in. My scores were brutal. They were not good. But I wanted that feedback. And it got to the point where I was like, you know what? Like, I feel like I lost a lot of myself during this event. Like, I put a lot of time, energy, and effort into this event, and I didn't do a really good job at putting time, energy, effort, and love into this relationship.
Right.
And I had to be vulnerable and admit that and say, I'm sorry that I have given you less than you deserve. And that was really hard for me because I don't want Taryn to think, well, it's going to be like this every event.
Right.
Every time it's event week, Kevin's going to be shelled up and he's going to be focused on this and this. I don't want that to be the case. But I had to step out and accept, like, this is going to hurt a little bit probably, and not because she wants it to, because the truth hurts.
Right.
And that's one thing I love about Taryn. She says, like, I don't want to hurt you. I need the truth. I need the truth. If it doesn't hurt, I won't change. So for you and your relationship, like, sometimes you have to step out of that safe spot and put yourself out there a little bit and expect that like the next conversation probably will be a little painful, but what's the opposite? You just don't live from the truth?
Right.
You have to.
What do you think vulnerability is? Is it like living in the truth?
Vulnerability is, by definition, when you are vulnerable, you're in a position where you could be hurt. Like, what is the most vulnerable place for a football player? When they're laying out for a pass and they're not looking. Right? That's when you get hit hard.
Right.
Vulnerable, what is the most vulnerable spot of a car? Like, you're basically getting to the point where you're putting yourself in a position where you could be injured. You could have your feelings hurt.
And so the opposite of vulnerability would be like
Shelled
defensive
up.
and shelled up. Right?
Yeah, where you're.
Not
I think
connected.
vulnerability is living through the truth, even though it's painful at times.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked to Amelia at the gym today. I actually said that she was asking me fitness advice, and she wants to lose some weight after the end of this cut. And I literally said, like, I'm going to give you the truth. We always live in the truth.
Right.
Even though it can be hard to say, like, 25 pounds is really difficult to lose if your metabolism isn't revved prior to that. So it's just vulnerability is living in the truth. And that's funny because you said vulnerability is the most important. And when we were going through the rest of this, I remember thinking to myself, like, living in the truth. And we kept going back to that's number one. That's
right.
Vulnerability. So my thing about vulnerability is I had to be open and honest about my fears. I think that's absolutely huge. And we both actually do this with each other, Emilia and I. And we both have the same fear, which is really interesting. So she has recently, she's putting houses on the market. And in the spring, apparently it's like a big real estate time. And she basically in advance talked to me about how she feels like she's really afraid that her, in the PMES system, PMES, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, her M is going to have to be higher when she's super ambitious and when she's busy. And she's afraid that that's going to take away from our relationship, similar to like you thought the event was taking away from your relationship with
Not that
Tammy.
I thought. It did.
Right.
It straight up did.
And I told her, I appreciate you sharing that with me, but I don't think you have to worry because that's my biggest fear too. My biggest fear is my ambition. I didn't want her to ever have to feel like she's competing with my ambition. Similar to like that event took a lot out of us, and therefore naturally we have less to give in that moment until we level up. And so I had to be open and honest about my fear of that, and she was open and honest with me, and now we can actually make sure that's not happening in real time because we're aware, we have a pulse on it,
Yeah, I definitely know. Okay. All right. So I think vulnerability is the most important just because I think that's what most relationships lack. But some form of a system. So if you've listened to Alan and I before, you've heard us talk about systems of success. When I sit down with somebody, whether it's a new client or it's somebody I know and we're working through some stuff, I'll say, this is what I do. I break my life into health, wealth, and love, and I figure out what are the 3 to 5 things in each one of these categories that I need to be doing every single day in order to get closer to my goals.
Right.
That's how I start. Most people have no systems for their love.
Right.
They don't have any system. It's like, well, we spend this day together and this day together, and then we'll do this, we'll go to the movies, we'll do different things. But what are you doing every day?
Right.
Like, what are you doing every day? Right? And you're going to talk about that. I'll talk about the weekly system. So I got this from Alan. So weekly check-ins, right? Every Sunday for us, I think you guys do yours on Saturday.
Saturday nights now.
We'll sit down, and we Jeffed it this week. We Jeffed it hard. We talked about it, but we didn't do the full, take out the paper and go through it. But you sit down, and you figure out, how am I meeting your needs?
Right.
So again, I adopted this from Alan. So it's the six basic human needs. You have, you have love and connection, certainty, variety, growth and contribution, significance. Yeah, growth and contribution are 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So those.
So that's all 6. Strong
So
work.
you have those, and you basically go through, like, how love and connected did I make you feel this week? How love and connected did you feel to me? Right? You go through this system, and again, guys, we always say you either get the feedback along the way or you get it all at the end.
Oh, yeah.
This is the thing that gives you the ability to make these small course corrections along the way. So as I was saying, when I was overwhelmed with the event, the only reason I knew how weak I was in that department is because of this check-in, where Taryn was able to sit down with me, be open and honest in a safe place, and be vulnerable and say, like, this is the number I think it was a 4.
Yeah.
It wasn't
That's what
good.
you told me,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it was a 4. And without that system, would she have brought that to me? I don't know. It's hard to say like, hey, just so you know, you didn't do really well last week.
Right.
But when we're sitting down for the explicit reason to get better, it makes the check-in it's just so important. It's so important.
So when she said 4, then she went down to why.
It hurt me deeply.
And she said why?
Yeah.
Like reasons why?
Yeah.
So when Emilia and I do this, we have it. The next thing on the whiteboard is it evolves. So we've done this system every week since we got together, and it has evolved because at the beginning it was taking like a really long time.
Yeah.
So now we do 3 specific reasons why. So like let's say she rates me a 9 on significance. She rates the top 3 reasons or tells me the top 3 reasons that week that made her feel significant, and then 1 improvement. At least 1 improvement, sometimes more. But that way it goes quicker. But here's the thing, guys. So those check-ins, like Kevin said, is everything because you can make course corrections along the way instead of like assuming everything's fine. You actually will know the truth. This is, again, living in the truth. And you're going to have to be vulnerable in those conversations. That's why vulnerability is still number 1. Because if you have a system and you're not willing to be vulnerable, your system's going to collapse. And so the other part of the system, James Clear has a great quote. He says, you will not rise to the level of your ambition. You'll actually fall to the level of your systems. So daily check-ins in terms of gratitude. Emilia and I have a notes app, and it says Emilia with a heart gratitude game. And I know we've never missed a day. One time we missed, and then we did the next day, the previous day. But it's long, and we do at least 3. Usually it's anywhere from 5. It can get up to 20. But basically all you do is before bed, if we're not together, we'll send a voice memo of us reading the gratitudes to each other. If we are together, we'll literally put the voice memo app up and then read them to each other, and then we still send them to each other. I have a folder with, all of her gratitudes for me. Now, here's the reason why you do the system. We want to talk about why on this podcast. Because you're going to get the things that she values or that he values so that you can double, triple, and quadruple down on them. And as she grows and evolves or he grows and evolves, so will what they're grateful for. And it gives you the cheat codes of what is working and what she's noticing. And it's just such a wonderful thing because you're going to get what you focus on. And if you're focused on what you're grateful for your partner, it's going to make you more grateful along the way.
And just to reiterate what Alan said, your systems will evolve, all of them, whether it's the daily check-ins, whether it's the weekly check-ins, whether it's the gratitudes. So if Taryn and I aren't feeling connected throughout the week because I'm working so much and we see each other twice a week, she might say, I want to see you 3 times a week. Okay, let's see how we can make that happen. Right. Also, what if we FaceTime before bed? That way we get to see each other. Maybe that'll help us bring up that loving connection. Right? You get to see what the problems are, and you guys can come up with solutions together. We got 14 minutes. We got a hammer.
Okay.
So number 3, make your partner feel included. I have not done a good job of this when it comes to traveling. Because, again, I'm so used to just going, right? I traveled for 4 years. When it was time to go, I just went, and everybody knew that. I have to get better at that. Now, what I've been doing is telling Taryn in the morning or the night before, like, what my actual day looks like. Right. So, like, I'll say, yeah, I'm going to my podcast client's house. We have a podcast with this person. We're doing a solo episode. We have a team call, and I have a client call. And then at the end of the day, she'll say, how did these things go? Right. So I'm making her feel more included, even though she's not here with me, not necessarily working on the same thing. And I've also been telling her about the wins, of like, I'm going to hire a VA. I'm going to do this. I might have this new client. So just sharing the wins and the losses with her more really helps her feel included. And again, that'll probably help you guys too, because the chances of you and your partner doing the same exact thing are not high. You're probably doing different stuff.
Right.
And do I understand what her day looks like? Not unless she tells me, right? And it won't happen unless I ask. So
exactly.
That's kind of the thing there.
Making them feel included. So one of the examples that I had under this, and I do think this is super, super important, is the gym. So Emilia loves going to the gym with me. That's an area that she wants to master. And for me, that's really challenging. Just like Kevin mentioned, it's challenging for him with the travel because he traveled for so many years without having to tell anyone. With the gym, I've gone solo for so long that that's a very difficult arena for me to not be in solitude in. And I want to help her and I want to teach her. So the balance of strength and warmth. So when I'm in the gym, I have a really hard time talking to people and I like to have my headphones in. I don't like to get distracted. For me, focus is everything. And one of the things that she loves the most is going to the gym with me, and it's actually been pretty great because recently, as the system has evolved and she's gotten more affluent in this arena, thanks to one of my clients, B, she works out with her. Now it's like she and I have a cool flow going where I can actually focus on the workouts. She knows how to spot me now. She knows the workouts we do, push, pull, legs. She knows the splits. And I'm able to keep my headphones in pretty much the whole time now. Even though at the beginning it was more challenging for me to balance strength and warmth, now I feel like I have a good idea of it. And that's the thing. Like, integrate where you can to make sure that they feel included in your life. Like, Taryn and Emilia went to our event. And that, I know, made them feel included because they met all these people that we talk about all the time. And so any way you can make them feel included in your life is going to be a win, even though it's challenging.
And then Taryn was on the phone with Shauna yesterday.
Right.
Right? That's huge. All right, number 4. Focus on what fills their cup. So you can do this a number of ways. You can ask them, or you can figure out the love languages, the 5 love languages. What was that? Gary Chapman?
Yeah.
I believe.
Gary Chapman.
So I would read that book or read the Blinkist or find the Cliff Notes, whatever it takes. But figure out, again, we speak different languages. Like, maybe you care more about physical touch than you do about fun, unique experiences. Well, if your girlfriend cares more about fun, unique experiences, you have to do what she likes. Right? You have to make sure that you're speaking her love language. So for Taryn and I, she really likes doing fun, unique experiences. So on Friday, we made this date night like months ago where we went to this chocolate tasting thing, and and then we got pizza after. It was like a nice date night. It was a nice date night.
Hell yeah.
And she literally texted me she told me that night, she was like, I was crying today thinking of how excited I was to go do that. Because she's like, I love doing new things with you. Like, doing new things with you really really lights me up. And that's always, like, that's a consistent gratitude of hers. I love how you're willing to try new things with me.
Right.
So again, your system is telling you what to do.
Right.
Right? If you don't have a system, you're just guessing.
Yeah.
You're just guessing. It's like, I wonder if she enjoyed that.
Right.
Where she told me, I literally cried because I was so excited. So if you're focusing on what fills them up and fills their cup, you're going to be far more successful, fulfilled, happy, connected, everything.
Which all comes down to being. It's funny because the last one is listen and
Don't
effort
tell
to
'em.
understand.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
5's my favorite one.
Now you can turn it off.
So number 5 is listen to understand and ask what they need. That's very connected to number 4. Because if you're not asking what they care about, how do you know what fills their cup? So I have a flashcard where I have her top 5 cup fillers of things that matter most to her. Because in the past, I was putting so much effort into things that didn't matter to the other person. And that's very much a losing game. So for me and Emilia, she loves the outdoors. And we went on this one hike with little Tucker, her dog. And she talked about it for like the next 2 weeks. And it was a Sunday. It took like 2 hours. And she absolutely loved it. And as a matter of fact, we ended up doing our check-in in the woods, like in nature.
Little nature.
Yeah, it was like a warm day because this was during the winter. But I'm really excited for spring because I know that's so important to her, and she lights up like a Christmas tree every time she's outside, and I'm excited to do more of that. But that's all predicated on me observing. Be observant. What lights your partner up? It's obvious. You can see them light up. Just start noticing it, and then try to create those things more often.
Yes. And the other thing, too, 9 minutes. So the other thing, too, have the goal of being the best partner you can be.
Right.
Like, that is one of the ways to improve your intimate relationship. Make sure that you're always trying to exceed expectations and be the best partner humanly possible.
Right.
Because that's going to make you lock in on all these things. So as Alan so eloquently told you, number 5 is listen to understand and ask what your partner needs. So
total shocker.
I think a lot of people, when they're listening to respond. They're not listening to understand. So your partner might just want to vent. Like, they might just want... I don't know if you guys watch Parks and Recreation. It's my favorite show ever. And they have some, like, really good life lessons laced into this. I'm convinced that they do that for a reason. But there's this part where one of the main characters is pregnant, and her boyfriend is, like, overdoing it. Like, bringing her this, bringing her that, rubbing her feet, rubbing her back, doing all this stuff.
Right.
And she's talking to her friend, and she says, sometimes I just want to say, like, it sucks. And I just want him to say, like, yeah, it does suck. And that's it. She just wants to be heard. She wants to be understood. She wants to be able to vent. Your partner might not be looking for an answer. They might be looking for your support. They might be looking to be heard. They might just need to get it out. And sometimes I think the best thing you can do is ask what they need. Like
Right.
if Alan comes to me and says like, hey man, I'm going through something. What do you need? Like, do you need advice? Do you need me to listen? Do you just need a vent? Do you want me just to be? We don't even have to talk. Like, we can just sit here, you know?
Wow.
And then you know, I'm not going to cut you off. I'm going to listen to what you have to say. I don't have to add value. The value's here. The value's in the relationship. So that's a huge one. That's a huge one for me.
It's interesting because when you just went through all that, this is by far my worst one. I don't do well at number 5. I need to do a better job of listening in an effort to understand because I'm such a freaking problem solver. And I think that because I coach people as well, it's difficult for me not to want to improve all the time. I'm so improvement oriented when in reality, the value really is in feeling understood. So one thing that I have gotten better at and I've started doing consistently is I'll ask these questions. I did this in the shower not long ago. I said, do you feel expressed? Do you feel fully understood? Like, how do you feel? Do you feel well? And if your partner feels fully expressed, you're most likely going to feel really connected. And you can kind of tell because here's what I've noticed. If you're not doing a good job of listening, most likely the other person is losing connection with you and you're going to feel disconnected. If that's true, ask what they need because I think the biggest thing is like just support your partner. Support means different things to different people. If my client asks me for support, what they might want is tactics or advice. Whereas in an intimate relationship, it's a little bit different because you have to know. Sometimes you can put the coaching hat on. Sometimes, right? In fitness, there's certainly, like today at the gym, I was a coach, a fitness coach to Emilia. But there's other times where she just wants to express herself. The key here, I think, is the suppression of self-expression leads to depression. The last thing you want is your partner to not feel understood, heard, or expressed. And if you feel like you struggle with this like me, just get in the habit of asking them more consistently if they feel fully expressed. I told Emilia at the beginning of the relationship that like I want her to feel expressed in every area, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The most expressed version of her is going to be lit up like a Christmas tree. I live to see her light up, and I want her light to shine. And I really think that this is the one that I need to get better at in terms of more consistently asking that.
Christmas tree, my Christmas tree, lit up like a star. Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
Great movie.
Actually, I think that is Home Alone 2. I was going to say something.
Before the Christmas thing.
So we got 5 minutes. I say we just freestyle some.
Yeah.
I had a number 6.
Bonus.
Oh, my goodness.
Bonus.
Oh, make sure you are taking responsibility for your side of the relationship.
Right.
If you say something that doesn't land well,
Oh, yeah.
it might have been the way you delivered it. It's not necessarily the other person's problem or fault. Like, I think that one of the ones I wanted to put on here, but we realized that Jesus, it'd be nice if I could talk into the microphone, that it didn't encompass enough things, is be proactive and not reactive. So I've talked about this in the past where Taryn and I will be talking about something and my ego will be like, oh, you don't even know what I'm going through. Like, I'm a professional podcaster. Like, have you done 300 episodes of a podcast?
As soon as you're doing that, you're losing.
It's game over,
Right.
Because you're already screwing up. You can't live through ego. So you have, instead of being reactive, you have to be proactive and just don't say the first thing that comes to your mind because that is a reaction. And like, you know, it's just sometimes that happens. Like if somebody throws a punch at you, your natural reaction is to throw one back.
Right.
But what if you took a second and said like, yo, I'm not going to continue this, right? And obviously it's not that we're not having fist fights.
Remember you told me the ping pong analogy.
The pinball.
Pinball. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like let it.
Let it bounce off some stuff first.
Right.
Like let it bounce, through your head. And I just think that a lot of people, that's how arguments happen.
Right.
Somebody has to de-escalate the argument. Right? Like if you yell at me, we've done this, you and I have done this.
Oh, yeah.
You say something and I'm like, well, I didn't get this. I got to get this back. And then it goes back and forth.
Right.
And that's another thing that Taryn's really good at. Like she just stops. She stops it. She doesn't continue an argument. And we don't really argue, but I just feel like that's because we're both proactive. There's no reason to argue here. We can talk about this in a calm, timely manner. We don't have to yell about it. So that's accept your side of all of the responsibility because what you don't accept, you can't change.
Yeah. The two rolling themes, like these 5 tactics are great, but they won't work unless number 1, you want to be the best partner possible.
Yeah.
And then number 2, you take ownership for your side.
Yeah.
If you don't have those 2 fundamentals, these 5 tactics are, I wouldn't say useless, but kind of useless.
Yeah.
So that's huge. That's huge. Anything that we want to leave the listeners with regarding relationship?
Man, it could be anything, man. It could be anything. It could be anything. I just know when I look back,
Yeah.
there's a couple things, right? Number 1, you are one half of every failed relationship you've been in. Now, does that mean it's always your fault? No. But I think I look back at my old relationships and I remember I used to say, like, yeah, she was crazy. Like, that's what I said for a while. I said that for a while. She was just crazy. It was never going to work. That's not true.
Yeah,
That's not true. That was a story I was telling myself. I wasn't ready to face the truth. The truth is I was insecure. The truth is I was overpossessive. The truth is I wasn't confident. The truth is I had no dreams, no goals, no ambitions, no aspirations. I didn't want to do anything with my life. But you have to be honest with yourself just as much as you have to be honest with your partner. Because the level of your relationship is only going to rise to the level of the human being that you guys are, separate and together.
Yeah.
That's my 10-second blip.
That was quite the
about 35 seconds.
35-second blip. What would mine be? I think similar to Kevin, when I look back at my past relationships, I remember we were at a mastermind, me, you, and Mark, Dunkin' Donuts, and he asked.
Mark Badry.
I mentioned right. I mentioned to him. He's like, I'm like, how's dating going? He's like, I've been on a few dates, like whatever. And I'm like, are you you find anyone that you want to explore or whatever? In terms of a serious relationship. He's like, no. I'm like, well, what are you doing about it? So anyways, long story short, I ended up, he asked me, like, how do you know so much? Because Kevin and I immediately, like, started helping him with all the things, the to-dos and to-don'ts in intimate relationships. And I said, honestly, massive failure compounded over time, but making sure that I learned from each one. If you care a lot about your partner, just make sure you're taking the lessons along the way. You're not going to be perfect. But the key is that when something bad happens, you take ownership and you try to do better. And then forgiveness is going to be absolutely huge. People have a hard time to forgive. And as long as you have pure intent and you're trying to improve and you're focusing on service of the other person, I think you're going to be fine. And I think all these tactics will help.
I agree. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if this episode helped you, please share it and let us know which one of these was your favorite. Guys, we are trying to blow this podcast up in 2020, and we're trying to change the world. And if you guys could share, that would help.
Yeah, we'd really, really, really appreciate it.
We're really going like all in, triple down and quadruple down on this. And again, we love you guys. This is 301. We're just getting started. This is never going to stop. But if you did like this, please, 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 please share it. Reach out to Alan and myself. We always answer our messages. It's us and us alone. Like, you're not going to get a bot or anything like that. So much love, and we will talk to you on the next one.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.